KU football got one of the fastest players in the class of 2026 and a super solid tight end. 2 more recruits and commits for Lance Leipold in KU football.
You are Locked On Jayhawks, your daily podcast on the Kansas Jayhawks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on? Derek Johnson here at D Johnson Radio. This is Locked On Jayhawks. Another bonus episode for you as we're going to be breaking down 2 more KU football commits, Corbin Glasco and Jack Utz. Thanks for making it your first listen every day or second listen, so it's a bonus episode. Thank you to the everydayers catching each and every show. You can find us anywhere you get your podcast and on our YouTube page. So we'll get into a little bit on what it means for the class of 2026 now that Glasco and Utz are part of it. We'll get into scouting reports on both players, what they mean to the future of each position groups for KU. And then we're going to also finish up with a little bit of just other news for KU that I wanted to sprinkle on with some Joe Dineen stuff, former KU all-conference linebacker returning to Lawrence. Let's get started here. So what is the news of the day? Corbin Glasco, which great name. He is a 3-star wide receiver in the class of 2026. Outstanding speed. There's outstanding sprint times. One of the fastest players in the class of 2026. I say that without knowing the rest and every player, what they run in the class of 2026, but I feel confident in it based on some of the sprint times, which we'll get into here in a second. He is from the state of Texas, held offers from Kansas State, Toledo, Arkansas State, UTSA. Then you have Jack Utz, who is a 3-star tight end in the class of 2026. He also picked KU, and he's from Platte County, Missouri. So, you go into the state of Missouri and you reel out a really solid tight end there. He held offers from all sorts of big-time schools: Arkansas, Missouri, Kansas State, Nebraska, Baylor, BYU, Colorado, and more. So, if you're just basing the players on the offer list, I don't know, maybe he's going to work his way up to a 4-star just based on those offers and the teams that are interested in him. So you look at the two combined, and in total, they give KU double-digit commits in the class of 2026. They now have 11 commits in tow for the class of 2026. They're getting their work done very, very fast at this point in time. And last I checked, when they had the 13th ranked recruiting class in the country. Now, again, other schools haven't gotten as many players committed, and they'll catch up and stuff like that on KU, but it is cool to see where they are right now, and the recruiting buzz that is coming with this for KU is palpable, right? You're landing all these in-state recruits, which is a huge deal, but now you're also landing these out-of-state players who are really good, right? You already had Lenny Brown, the corner from California, in tow from out of state, right? You just bring in one from Oklahoma on the defensive line. You add here from out of state, but they're also within your region. When you look at Texas, you look at Missouri right next door, where it still has a bit of a local feel from the Missouri one, but you're just putting together a really solid recruiting class and hammering the in-state stuff. And let's get into specifically the scouting reports here of Glasco and Utz, because with Glasco, you're not going to want to miss out on hearing some of his sprint times because they are very impressive. Our episode of the show is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Super Bowl 59 is here. 1 game, 2 teams, endless possibilities. And there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field, and the app is super easy to navigate. Plus, knowing that you can place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl, that's the icing on the cake. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59 and the Locked On Podcast Network. Continue on with this bonus episode of the show with Glasco and Utz, both committing to KU. Don't forget to check out our other bonus episode. KU just got a couple other commits, and then before that, they got a couple other commits. So we've had a bunch of these bonus episodes. Also, a KU UCF preview to get you ready for basketball tonight. Make sure to make those your on your listening agendas for today as well. Let's start with the receiver, which is Corbin Glasco, who is an absolute burner of a receiver. Not the biggest kid, 5'9". He's listed at 178 pounds. I don't know how accurate that is, but from Geyer High School in Denton, Texas. He is an 87 graded 3-star by 24/7 Sports. He is a 5.7 rated 3-star on Rivals. And I believe Rivals 5.8 is a 4-star. So he's, right on the heel of being a 4-star. And the reason why is that speed. His huddle page lists him at having a 4.35 40-yard dash. Now, I don't know, again, that could be hand timed. It could be a little off, as I always kind of say with the huddle page stuff. But I would buy it based on the fact that he does have clocked track times. So as a sophomore, this past year he was a junior, so he hasn't clocked his full junior seasons for track, and we'll get updated numbers on that. But as a sophomore in high school, he clocked a 10.33 100-meter dash, which the one that people have been throwing around from the KU perspective to show comparison, Jason Bean is a senior in high school, ran a 10.36 100-meter dash. So theoretically, you have a receiver here who is slightly faster than Jason Bean. And Jason Bean was the fastest player, arguably, on KU when he was on the team. But I think what's even more impressive when I go back, Xavier Worthy ran a 10.55 as a sophomore in high school. So that would be comparing sophomore to sophomore season. And Xavier Worthy obviously kept growing and kept getting faster. And, some guys are faster in the 100, some are faster in the 60, some are faster in the 40, right? McCole Hardman ran a 10.64 in high school. How about this one? Tyreek Hill, back in his high school running days, I believe, ran a 10.19 100-meter dash. So that's a good amount, better 10.19 to 10.33. But you're creeping up on it to where, if you're at least close to the same speed as Tyreek Hill, that's a pretty impressive place to be for Glasgow. So this is a kid who can take the top off the defense. You can get him the ball in screens, in jet sweeps. He can run deep balls. You can get him the ball in the open field in special teams, and he is going to use it with his speed. And you look at the receiver room now, he's the second receiver commit for KU in the class of 2026, joins Nate Sims. Speed's the common theme there because Sims is an ultra fast receiver as well. So you look at the future of that receiver position, you're losing, 4 receivers off the roster this year. Emmanuel Henderson, Bryson Canty, Levi Wentz, all transfers in, and then Doug Emelian, they're all seniors in 2025. You do have 4 freshmen coming in, and the hope is that they'll be ready more come 2026, but you're going to have a very young receiving core come 2026 where you'd have a redshirt junior Keaton Quebeca, you'd have a redshirt junior Cam Pickett, and then it'd be a bunch of the guys in the class of 2025 and now the class of 2026 as looking to make an impact as young players, and then probably, supplanting that with players in the transfer portal. But these are players that you are adding for your future pillars while also showing a identity you want to go to at the receiver position with some real speed on the outside, and that's really cool. Now you look at what Jack Utz is bringing to the table. If you want to look at Glasgow as this lightning quick, super fireworks type recruit where it's it's the speed. Utz is just like that solid rock, which I think is perfect as a tight end. Listed at about 6'4.5", 6'5", 230-pound tight end from Platte County High School in Platte City, Missouri. He is graded as an 86 rated 3-star on 24/7 Sports. He's a top 40 tight end in the class there. Rivals gives him a 5.7 rated 3-star. So again, right on the heels of being a 4-star. And then at On 3, he's an 85.65 rated 3-star, which is the 30th ranked tight end in the class. And on the 24/7 composite, which puts everything together, he's top 600 overall nationally and a top 30 tight end in the 24/7 composite. And you go back and look at some of the film of how he's being used at Platte County. Tight end can be a position where it's a little bit tougher to judge at the high school level. Some teams might be running wishbone or running all the time, right? Some teams might pass it around, right? They kind of used him in multiple different ways. You would see him as an inline blocking tight end. You would see him motion out, or you would see him line up in the shotgun as kind of a Y tight end where he's out sort of in the slot as a tight end receiver type, right? And there's some really fun blocking highlights. He has no problem getting his nose dirty in the blocking game. There was one route that I saw where he was kind of running post or a slant over the middle of the field, and it looked like a receiver was running into the defense. That's kind of a good thing you're looking for from tight ends. It seemed like he had a good idea of where zones needed to be, where if he ran into a zone and was open, he would sit in the zone. And that's a good skill that kind of is a intuition thing that, the best receivers and tight ends kind of have. I don't know the full like speed or the full route tree there, because a lot of the highlights you saw were, it's not that he can't do it, it's just that he wasn't being asked to do it. So I just don't know. But like a lot of the routes that they were asking him to run were shorter routes. They were, maybe small little 3-5 yard drag routes over the middle of the field, or little out routes or little routes where he was just kind of running to the perimeter, and he was a check down option for the quarterback to get him the ball. And he was successful at those. The routes that he was running where they were kind of drag routes over the middle of the field, whether it was 5 yards, 10 yards down the field, and would make the catch. A lot of times those ended up being contested balls where he had to make the catch and take a hit and hold on to the ball. And he was able to do that. And that was impressive. So I think just a really solid tight end. I have a hard time not seeing him be a successful player at the next level. And you look at the tight end room in the future for KU. So Keon Burnett and Deshaun Hanukkah in 2025, they're both seniors, so they're going to both be gone. So you look at 2026 when Utz would be joining the roster. Leighton Cure would be a redshirt senior at that point in time. Quentin Conley, who's made some noise as a former walk-on, would be a redshirt senior. And then you'd have redshirt junior Jaden Ham, redshirt sophomore Carson Brune. I don't think there's anything necessarily there that when you fast forward to 2027, where Leighton Cure would also graduate, you would point to and say, why couldn't he as a second-year player beat out Jaden Ham or Carson Brune? Ideally, Jaden Ham or Carson Brune, take steps forward and they're ready to take on that role in 2027. But I think there's a chance you could see Utz on the field as soon as 2027. But obviously the rest of the tight end recruiting kind of factors into that as well. And what you do in the transfer portal factors into that as well. But I just think he's going to be a solid player, that whether it is him hitting the field in 2029 or 2026, I think he'll be able to make a positive impact for KU. All right, let's finish up here. Some other news for KU football, including about Joe Dineen. Our episode of the show today is brought to you by TurboTax. And taxes used to be waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back. Then waiting, wondering, and worrying some more. Now, taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return, while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. Also, you can get back the most money guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now this is taxes. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live Full Service. Real-time updates only in iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. Finishing things up here on this bonus episode of the show. Again, don't forget to check out our KU UCF preview. We'll have a KU UCF postcast after the game tonight. So this was something I kind of compiled with in relation to all this recruiting news for KU, because Landen Anderson, who is the defensive line recruit from Oklahoma that we just did a bonus episode about the other day, he just came in with his rating as a 4-star on Rivals. So, I mean, he could end up being one of the highest rated recruits in the class. Now, I went and looked, and KU now has, with the addition of Utz and Glasco, 59 commits under Lance Leipold in his tenure at KU. 39 of them are rated .8600 or better on the 24/7 Sports Composite. Or actually, that's inaccurate because I didn't include Jack Utz into that. So Jack Utz would be the 40th rated player who's a .8600 on the 24/7 Composite or better. And to be clear, that doesn't even include everyone. That doesn't include Anderson. That doesn't include a couple of the other commits like Jalen Mason in this class of 2026. So realistically, it could end up being 41 or 42 or something like that. But point being, either way, 40 of the 59, over 2/3, basically 70% of KU's commits in the Lance Leipold era have been .8600 or better. During the Turner Gill, Charlie Weiss, David Beatty, and Les Miles eras combined, Kansas logged in over 300 commits. Only 44 of them were rated .8600 or better. That amounts to 14%. So only 14% of KU's commits during those previous eras were which .8600 or better. It's kind of an arbitrary line, but I've found that the .8600 or better kids tend to be around the line or inside the top 1,000 nationally. So that's just kind of why we went with it. You can see the production, the quality of player has just super increased with Lance Leipold and the staff. Plus, in addition to that, the staff is known for development and bringing players along. And so that is a very good place to be of how you've elevated the talent level on this roster. That doesn't even include the transfers you brought in that are highly talented. The other news of the day is that Joe Dineen is coming back. 2 hires for KU at the analyst level. Joe Dineen, who is the former All-American, All-Big 12 linebacker for Kansas, he was Purdue's outside linebacker coach the last couple of seasons, and KU struggled at the linebacker position the past couple of years. I'd imagine he can help with that as an analyst. And then they also are bringing in Matt Burkett as a defensive backs coach from USF, and James Madison. He'll also be a defensive analyst for KU, and so obviously good anytime you add good brain power to the analyst room, right? But really cool when you see a homecoming opportunity too, with Joe Dineen coming in the fold as well for KU. That'll do it for this episode of Locked On Jayhawks. Again, don't forget to check out our KU UCF preview, and we'll be back later tonight for a KU UCF recap. Or who knows, maybe we'll be back before then, because KU recruiting train just won't stop, man. See you next time on LOJ.